So now I am delighted to introduce our keynote speaker, Winifred Winston. Winifred A. Winston brings 15 years of expertise as an HR and career management administrator in K-12 and higher education. Her journey through public school districts and as an administrator at a special education school was deeply influenced by her experience navigating special education challenges with her daughter. Recognizing the lack of accurate information on dyslexia interventions for Black and underrepresented minorities, Winifred founded Dyslexia Advocation Incorporated. This 501(c) charitable organization aims to provide access to quality, affordable remediation for the parents of struggling readers and adults. Please join me in welcoming Winifred Winston.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Okay. So again, my name is Winifred A. Winston. I'm a Black woman with a short brush cut, wearing a green shirt and green and black rimmed glasses. That's my ADA in me. So I want to thank you guys for having me today. I want to thank Lisa and her team. They have been phenomenal in getting me here and getting me set up to speak with you today. So Lisa gave you an introduction about me. How did I get here? Right? How did I get here? And today I want to talk about unlocking potential together and how to forge dynamic alliances in this dyslexia journey. I started in higher ed, in student affairs. Higher ed was my baby. I started in student affairs. I was in career research and development. Then I became an adjunct professor. So I'm teaching folks how to write resumes, how to do cover letters, how to write your LinkedIn profile, right? Resumes aren't grammatically correct. They just need to be consistent. And then my daughter starts school. And I noticed some things. And now I'm working in K-12 because now I'm in HR and I'm hiring teachers. And I'm going out in the community and I'm getting to know schools intimately. I'm documenting, I'm laying off, I'm doing learning walks, I'm looking over budgets, so I know the school intimately. And I'm watching to see which neighborhood school is a good school that I might send my daughter to. Then she starts school and I notice that she's not quite reading. She's shying away from reading. Her vocabulary is off the charts. At 3 years old, she's at a basketball game with her sister, and her sister's mother takes her to the stall. She's taking a long time, and she's 3. And she says, "Logan, are you okay in there?" She said, "Yes, I'm defecating. I'll be out in a minute." So I knew my baby was sharp. But something was amiss. Something just wasn't right. And so now I'm like, okay, something's not right, but oh, she's so smart. Just wait. Just wait and see. How many heard that? But because I was in education and I know the schools intimately, I'm like, I don't know if I should wait. So then I start working an initiative where I'm hiring inner city residents in Baltimore City into entry-level jobs. And this is right after I became a high school teacher. Follow me, right? So I'm in career services, right? Now I'm in HR, and now I was a teacher adjunct. Then I dropped down and I became a high school teacher, right? So now as I'm learning more about my daughter, the light bulbs are going off because as an adjunct, I had adult learners, they couldn't do the cover letter. They couldn't write the LinkedIn profile. When I was interviewing folks for that initiative, I'm interviewing them and they're talking to me and I know they can do the job, but there's a 100-question assessment. And then one of my former high school students texted me and she said, "Ms. Winston, I'm about to get a job." And I said, "Oh, okay, I remember this child." I'm like, I don't think she's gonna be successful on that assessment. So all of the lights started going off like, oh my gosh, these adults have learning disabilities. Oh, I get my daughter assessed. I don't shy away from it, right? I send her to private school first, then I send her to public school. She attends a public charter. She got response to intervention, because I came in and I said, you know, she's having some struggles reading. I'm not quite sure. And by the way, her print is going to be sloppy because she's learning cursive. And she says the kids here don't write in cursive, so her handwriting is going to be sloppy. This is what I said. I didn't know about dysgraphia. And in cursive, it doesn't really show up because she's drawing, right? She's not having trouble with spacing because in cursive, you have to disconnect and connect again, right? But I didn't know that. I was just a parent proud of her cursive, right? Because she could write her signature and everything really good. So I didn't shy away from the assessment. I welcomed it. Her dad was like, no, she's smart. I said, I never said she wasn't smart. Something is going on here. In my mind, I thought, if my daughter was sick, if she had cancer, would I just be okay with, oh, she has cancer, let's fix it. I want to know what type of cancer. So in my mind, I said, something is amiss. I want to get her assessed so we can know how to intervene, how to help her. But all the while, I'm in that IEP meeting, eligibility, we're going to determine eligibility, and all the red flags are going off because as an administrator in education, I know how to read body language. I'm coming in the building, they know I'm there. Who's getting furloughed? Who's getting surplus, rather, right? Who's getting written up? Is she gonna, pull my attendance log? So I'm in that IEP meeting and I'm reading body language. They said SLD. I said, what's SLD? Oh, and they went into womp, 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 womp. Because as a parent, I don't understand. Forget my teacher hat. I'm a parent in that meeting and I'm asking you to explain what's going on with my daughter. And I left that meeting feeling like something is amiss. Maybe they're not telling me the truth. I kept saying, how are you going to teach her how to read? Oh, we're going to let her know in advance that we're going to call on her on the carpet. Okay, well, how are you going to teach her to read? We're going to give her more time. I said, well, more time? I give her a lot of time at home, and like all of these things weren't clicking because those are accommodations, which she's going to need. But I kept asking questions, and at the very end of the IEP meeting, the psychologist said to me, oh, well, when a child has dyslexia, I said, oh, she has dyslexia? No, you see, I'm thinking, what's going on here? Because she started backpedaling. I said, well, if it's dyslexia, well, how do I get a diagnosis? And I left there, and I went in my car, and I cried. Any parents do that? Go in your car and you cry? I cried. I mean, I just cried because I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to help my daughter? So then I said, okay, because we build in dynamic alliances, I turn on my hat. Okay, who do I know? Let me call the principal. Hey, can you look over this IEP document for me? I called my cousin. I'm like, hey, can you look at this IEP document for me? Because she did special education law. So my principal friend says, well, if you want to get help, you need to call this attorney. I'm like, okay, if I want to get help, I need to call this attorney. I'm like, I need an attorney for this? She was like, all I'm saying, he'd be up in my building, wreaking havoc on me. If you want help, this is what you need to do. That's what she said. And so I started thinking, okay, the principal told me to call an attorney. My cousin is looking over this document. She did some special education law. So I call up another friend and I said, hey, you work in special education. Can you check out this IEP for me? Can you kind of explain it to me? And she looked at it and she said, oh, it's so robust. It's good. I said, oh, okay. What's good about it? Because I really have no idea. She started saying, well, they're going to give her some interventions and they're going to give her some services. And it looks like she's got a lot of accommodations. So then my cousin looked at it and she said, this is a piece of and I'm like, okay, I went to the educator, right? And she's like, I went to my cousin and I said, well, what's wrong with it? My cousin started saying, what's the intervention? Right? What's the intervention? How many days is she going to get it? How are they going to teach her how to read? And then my cousin says, because, I told you previously there probably was a learning disability. You just didn't hear me. When did you tell me that? Oh, well, never mind. mind, never mind. I worked this case, and then they got some compensatory damages, and they put him in this program, and he was an adult, and he learned to read, and you might be able to get a non-public placement. What? It was just all coming at me. So I called up my daughter's pediatrician, and I'm like, I don't know, like, the school is saying they can't tell me how to get an identification. My cousin said that it's a piece of shit, but the educator said that it was robust and it was good. Like, what do I do? And my pediatrician said, here's this psychologist. Call her, tell her that I referred you. So I call up the psychologist, and she said, okay, your daughter has a learning disability. She said it probably is dyslexic. She's dyslexic from what you're telling me. She said, now we have some next steps I need you to do. This was the first person that was calm, that said, yes, this is it, and this is how we're going to remediate it. She said, there's 10 things I need you to do. And she told me one was I need to learn about special education law. She said, I need you to go to rights law, spend 10 minutes, set a timer, get off. Okay, I need you to visit dyslexia private schools. I said, they have schools for that? She said, yes. And she started telling me where they were located. I said, Lord, I drive by one every day. Didn't know. She said, and you need to understand reading and literacy. Like, she told me 10 things to do. So I said, okay. This woman talked to me for 45 minutes, right? In hindsight, she is a psychologist. She does full-on evaluations, right? So she gave me 45 minutes for free, okay? 45 minutes, she talked me off of the ledge. So fast forward, I'm going through the steps that she told me. And I go to a meeting because I want to learn about the law. Because I said, okay, if the IEP is a legal document, I need to start there. Yeah. I went to the meeting, and I'm listening to an attorney talk about the IEP. Anybody ever listen to an attorney talk about the IEP? Right? So I'm asking a ton of questions. And at the end of that meeting, a young lady says, you ask great questions. Have you ever heard of decoding dyslexia? I was like, no. She was like, you should join because you ask great questions. I said, oh, okay. So as I'm leaving out, I'm trying to absorb all this information because at this point, I've been an educator in higher ed, right? I've been an educator in K-12, right? I'm still confused. I still don't understand. And I'm driving from that meeting, and I'm like, what's that organization? Who she told me to see? And I can't remember. Can't remember the name. It escaped me. So I look in my rearview mirror. I'm at a light. I see her in the car behind me. I jump out of my car. I'm like, hey. She's like, it's me. What's that organization you told me? And she said, Decoding Dyslexia. Right? So then I started going to monthly Decoding Dyslexia meetings to learn about dyslexia. Right? And that's what started my journey on building dynamic alliances in this dyslexia journey, right? My daughter was identified as SLD, dyslexia, and I didn't know how to help her. With all the tools in my arsenal, I didn't feel equipped enough to help my daughter. So the goals for today, I want you to understand the importance of community support because at the end of it all, that's what it is, community support. I want to share some partnership models that drive success that I was able to achieve and that I'm still in the midst of right now. And I want to tell you how to discover actionable strategies to support dyslexic learners because it is a maze, it is a pie, there are multiple steps to it, and we can't be experts in everything. But I can tell you, how many parents are here with a struggling reader? You're going to try to do it all. You're going to try to do it all. So the importance of community support. Community support is a collective effort involving schools, families, and organizations. We hear the term, it takes a village to raise a child, right? When a child has dyslexia, that is even more important because it impacts the entire family. We're talking about parents, siblings. How many have multiple children? My daughter's my only child. There's no way. I'm exhausted. Emotionally, I don't even know if I would have enough, right? And as a parent, now my daughter's father and I were not married, but we co-parent so well that everybody were married, okay? He was on board because once she got identified, what do you think happened? He got identified because I said, oh, he has a twin brother, but they twins. And then I started thinking, no wonder he can help her with the homework. They both of them, I don't even know why. But some parents, some families, they struggle with it. The dad is not on board, and he's the neurodivergent one. And mom is doing all the work, right? And then you have other siblings that are impacted. I have a friend, she has twins. One is dyslexic, one is not. Right? How do you celebrate the one that's making A's and B's, and then you have your struggling reader over here? So families, it's important that we build a support system, and it all starts with community. So what I'm going to say now, I tell parents this, they're giving Jillian Michaels credit for this, but this is something I always say. Now you've got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? Not only parents, but educators. I was an educator. I remember being in an IEP meeting. I got pulled in because they needed a general educator. And they gave me some papers and said, come to this meeting. I was like, what? I remember being an educator wanting to tell a parent, there is nobody in this building that speaks Spanish, and your child is in Spanish. And I had my Spanish book from the 80s. And I remember bringing it to school trying to help her. But then I figured out a way for her to get all her credits if she can enroll in my class twice. But I couldn't explain all of that to the parent because what was going to happen? Winifred said, Miss Winston said, nobody in this building speaks Spanish, right? So now my job is on the line. Right? So I tell parents all the time and educators, it's time to get comfortable with being uncomfortable because you're going to be in spaces and places that's not comfortable. And most often when we're not comfortable, we leave. When we're not comfortable, we shut down. But this is a time when you got to roll up your sleeves and say, okay, I got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. My daughter's father, when we started this journey, he didn't want to go to some of the meetings and support groups. And the first thing I said to him is, we got to show up. And guess what? When we showed up, oftentimes we were the only black family, right? But I'm going to sip this wine, and I'm going to walk around here, and I'm going to talk and get to know you too. So I had to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And the impact on dyslexic learners, it's different. It says a study here, National Center for Education Statistics found that students who reported a strong sense of belonging within their school community demonstrated a 20% increase in academic engagement and a 15% reduction in absenteeism compared to those with a weaker sense of belonging. And when you're dyslexic in the public school system, we had that experience. My daughter did not like being pulled out. She wanted to know why she was in that reading group with somebody who was in first grade and she was in second grade, right? She didn't like that. She also didn't like being removed from her neighborhood school to attend a private dyslexia school. She thought in third grade she was going to be fixed and then she was going to go back to her regular school, right? So for the dyslexic learner, we know that they feel and their reaction emotionally is very deep rooted, right? It's a connectivity. I call my daughter an empath. And we know that anxiety and depression can show up as early as kindergarten, right? As early as kindergarten. I remember, because my mother wasn't active, she was a nurse, she was a single mom, she worked 2 full-time jobs. I thought nurses worked 2 full-time jobs. I didn't know that you got vacation until I was about 19 or 20 when I had my first job because my mother never took vacation. And back then she worked holidays because she got time and a half, right? So I would say I'm going to be an engaged parent. I'm going to be on it. So in kindergarten, we had to, she was in a private school, and she had to learn Bible, scripture, little Christian private school, the affordable ones. They don't exist no more. And so I'm on her. We doing this. Logan, you're gonna remember this, and we do week 1, and then week 2, she can't remember week 1. And then we do week 3, she can't remember week 2. And I'm on her, and I'm on her. And the teacher says, Mom, you gotta let up. She says she's coming to reading sessions and she's shaking. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, I'll let up. But y'all not really. Because I was thinking, like, she's gonna be an A student, like, we gonna do this, because I'm gonna be engaged and involved. And then when we got the diagnosis, how do you think I felt? I was like, I'm the worst mom ever. Like, oh my gosh, my baby was struggling. And she would tell me, Mommy, make it fun. I'm like, okay, I taught high school kids. I don't really know. She made it fun. That's not what I do. I did adult learners. Then she told me, Mommy, break it up. My daughter was 6, 7 years old telling me, break it up. Don't give me a whole lot at once. I was like, break it up? Break what up? Right? But I could see when I go back, I'm like, wow, at that young age, something was going on with her emotionally, right? She said, why is so-and-so in my reading instruction with me? I'm like, who? You know, Peyton, making up a name. Why is she in my reading class with me? And I'm like, well, I don't know. But I'm asking my daughter, did you have reading today? She said, yes, Mommy. I said, did you meet with the OT specialist? No, Mommy, because her son, he broke his leg and she had to go to the hospital with him. And so she out right now. Every day I ask my daughter, did you get your interventions? And I would say it like that, interventions. I said, yeah, was the person reading with you? Well, no, Mommy, there's testing right now and all hands on deck. And so they all got to be someplace else, right? So building a strong school family partnership is so important. Building trust, establishing open lines of communication. We attended a public charter school, and when I tell you they're very good at building that school community and building trust. They gave me all these handouts on how to work with my daughter at home. You look at the picture, and then you figure out what it is, right? Right? But I didn't know that at the time. But they did a good job of building that trust and saying, hey, we have open lines of communication here. You know, I really think parents need to be able to see it, right? When I did learning walks as an HR professional, I remember, I was HR, so I wasn't an educator. I remember asking someone, can you give me an example of good instruction? We're going through all these classrooms and I don't really see this good instruction. And so they showed me good instruction and then bad instruction. Now, while we're doing all of this, and I'm thinking about building the partnerships, I have an epiphany, I have an aha moment. It's not really connecting for me, right? Because not only was her father identified, so was I. Classic ADHD. I learn by doing, right? So as I'm building trust, right, as I'm in the midst of this, because I have a different relationship with the school, because they know I work for the district private, right? They know my history. But then I say, I'm still not getting it, right? Because I went to a dyslexia simulation. Anybody ever participate in that? That's it. Don't do it, y'all. When I tell you, I was that student that was writing my shopping list. I was picking with other students because I couldn't get it, right? So what I did, remember I was in career services first? So I redid my resume and everything, and I became director of admissions of a special education school. Because now I need to understand why certain people getting help, why others aren't, and why this process seems so convoluted. So now I'm reading evaluations every single day because I've got to be able to identify a particular profile to then give to the admissions team, right? But that trust part, when I see it in a public school setting versus a private school setting versus a public charter setting, it looks a lot different. I had parents at the public charter school contact me at the private dyslexia school, but they were afraid to leave the charter school, right? They felt so connected to that community that they didn't want to leave, but your child isn't learning how to read, right? But they built that trust. Support systems, decoding dyslexia, be an advocate for that student, but help that parent. Push that parent to resources. So it's important that you know about resources. Now me, on the other hand, I was at the IEP meeting and the teacher told me, Miss Winston, I don't know how to work with a student with dyslexia. Oh, I can tell you that because I'm going to go to the IDA website. I saw their table out there and I pulled some resources and here you go. So at the IEP meeting, I'm bringing resources because I was a little different. I was just a little different. Family engagement, and this is the challenge that we all have. How do we reach families? How do we reach parents, right? Because as a parent, I fortunately had a job where I could be flexible, right? Before I went to be director of admissions at the special education school, my job allowed me a lot of autonomy, and I could just put a lunch and learn on my calendar. I had a colleague of mine, her daughter was struggling, she had an IEP. I was like, oh, what you doing next week Tuesday? And she was like, what do you mean? I said, put a meeting on your schedule. And that was the meeting where I learned about decoding dyslexia, right? So I had a lot of autonomy, so I could do a lot of my own engagement, right? I could do a lot of my own engagement, but having something like a parent literacy night, that would be impactful because, for one, parents need to understand you got to take this one step at a time, right? One step at a time. But we're trying to get out of child help. We're trying to walk through this IEP, and then you're trying to just maintain your level of sanity. Because some days you're crying, how am I going to do this? And then when the expenses come, what I didn't say in the beginning was, when I called that pediatrician and I called that psychologist, I tell people, in a matter of 3 days, I was told I needed $22,000. $22,000. And so the psychologist, that's why she told me, your daughter has a learning disability, probably dyslexia. Stop. You already have it. Because that was an independent educational evaluation plus a summer intensive reading program. That totaled $22,000. And I was snot crying at this time. Because now I'm like, I don't have $22,000. I'm a failure. I should have that in savings. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But I was literally thinking, I'm failing my child. So family engagement and education to me is so important because parents need to understand it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And I want to share this example here. So MILE is Maryland Initiative for Literacy and Equity. This is a collaboration in Maryland between Morgan State University, which is a HBCU, and the University of Maryland College Park. I'm going to talk more about how this started. They were having an athletic event at Morgan State, and it was a big event that was going to have a lot of parents there because it was Parent Day. And Dr. Gibson called me up and she said, Winifred, I need some parents. We're thinking about doing Family Literacy Day. I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. I'm on it. What do you need from me? Well, Winifred, we were thinking, could we get some parents? I'm like, oh, I can get you some parents. That's no problem. I'm going to do that. Because in my nonprofit, we help parents. Essentially, what we try to do is give parents money. Right? So I called this one parent. I said, Tara, I'm doing a literacy day for families, and I need you on a parent panel. I ain't ready. I said, Tara, we've been together 4 years now. I think you're ready. I'm not ready. Winifred, I would love to help you, but I'm not ready. I said, yes, you are. I need 4 people, and you're one of 4, and you're coming. And she said, well, okay. Okay, then I called 3 others. I got 2 that I just pick up the phone and say, hey, I need you need to say yes. She laughed and said, what am I saying yes for now? Right? So I got 4 parents that had 4 different journeys. Now Tyra, the one who was scared, she was on the panel and she talked about how she felt embarrassed, how she felt ashamed, how she felt like it was her fault. And it resonated with someone in the audience, and that man came up to her afterwards and he said, what you said is exactly how I felt. I resonated with your whole experience. He was like, how can we get to know each other? Because what you said touched me. So at the end, Tyra comes up to me, Winifred, whatever you have going on, you just got to call me because I'm going to be there. I'm going to do this again. Right? And so not only did we have a parent panel, because as a parent going through this journey, I felt so alone. I had friends and family, good intention, telling me I was doing too much, I'm over the top, she my only child, she gonna be okay, you know, and I felt like, well, damn, I can't talk to you about it, right? And so parents often feel alone. They even don't want to talk to other family members or their spouse. So I always lead. So we also had breakout sessions. speech and language pathologist, right? We had a literacy specialist. We had an interventionist. We had somebody that's going to tell the parent the difference between a homework tutor and a specialized tutor. Anybody use homework tutors? Anybody right there? You just said, my child's not reading, so I'm going to get a tutor. And you just got a tutor. I did that, and I paid for it, and they took my money. Right? And then I got another tutor who was specialized, but I didn't know in the beginning because we immediately struggling, let me get a tutor. And then I have the interventionists that tell me all the time, I am not a tutor. I pay X, Y, and Z. I'm an interventionist. I'm a dyslexia therapist. I said at the end of the day, a parent don't care. The first thing that comes to mind, we got to speak in their language. You're a tutor. You're a tutor that can help them. You're a specialized tutor. Keep the credentials. I'll pay you maybe more, right, if you have X, Y, Z credentials. But at the end of the day, the parent just wants to know that you can help their child. And I want to speak to the parent. The parent's not going to think, let me find a dyslexia therapist interventionist. Let me Google that. They're not doing that. The parent don't know that there's Wilson, that there's Barton, that there's OG. They don't know. Oh, let me tell you a fun little story. I didn't even plan to say this. But my daughter and I, we were on the Kelly Clarkson show earlier this year, okay? I knew that Kelly Clarkson's child was dyslexic. Did anybody know that? Yeah. So my daughter participated in a nonprofit called Black Girls Cook. And they had about 3 families that they submitted. And we had to do a video, we had to do an interview, and then we had to do another interview and another interview. But I wake my daughter up Saturday. Logan, wake up. We have an opportunity to be on the Kelly Clarkson show. And I asked her, because she's 14, I said, is it okay if we mention your dyslexia? No, I am more than dyslexia. I don't want to talk about dyslexia. I mean, you do that advocacy work. I said, well, Logan, Kelly Clarkson is big. Well, I never heard of her. And I go to Google and I'm trying to show her singing and I'm trying to show her on the show. And I'm like, well, you need to watch a couple of clips. I'm like, Logan, Kelly's child is dyslexic. I mean, like we want them to select us, right? I said, now this is an opportunity for other black and brown little girls and little boys who are struggling to read to see you on Kelly Clarkson and get inspired. I said, this is bigger than you. I need you to man up, right? I told her, I said, you're my child. I need you to start acting like it. So she's like, okay. So literally, this is being recorded, but we were still in our pajamas, right? And we did the little video and we made it onto the show, right? Now, it's very fast paced, so we didn't get up. My daughter, I think, answered. We were on the couch with her, and she asked my daughter some questions and asked me a question. But it's very fast paced, right? And at the end, they're taking pictures, so we're lining up to take pictures. During the interview, I mentioned dyslexia because it was the first time my daughter volunteered to read out loud. And she wanted to read a recipe, and I'm like, I'm so happy, like, we're going to keep doing Black Girls Cook. And so I mentioned that on screen, and Kelly said, oh, I was thinking about putting my daughter, I think it's her daughter, in a private dyslexia school. She said that to me on the couch, but when it aired, that is not in the clip. I found that interesting. At the end, when they're lining us up to take the picture, I'm not there for my nonprofit. We're there for Black Girls Cook. So I don't want to be talking about dyslexia and everything, but I say to her, I said, well, you should really consider a private dyslexia school, and is she getting Orton Gillingham now? And Kelly looked, and I said, OG, and Kelly repeated after me, OG? So what do you think that meant? No idea. So here I am, like, the advocate of me is like, no, you don't know OG, but I'm like, OG, and she watched my mouth and she said, OG. And I'm thinking, with all the resources, with everything that she has, what? And she said on screen, she said, my daughter, well, she said to me when we were lined up to take the picture, my daughter goes to bed crying every night when we do homework. No, and I kept thinking, oh my gosh, like, she doesn't know. Right? She doesn't know about this resource. She's not going to know about a speech and language pathologist. She's not going to know that her daughter could also have dysgraphia. Like, what? She didn't even know about OG. Right? So when we did this parent panel with this Family Literacy Day, I wanted other experts in this space to be able to talk to parents, because sometimes we don't know. I didn't know to me, now, do we have any SLPs in here? Okay, so you guys that know about dyslexia and OG are my favorite, because my daughter's first interventionist was an SLP, and she just explained things to me differently, and she worked really well with my daughter. So I'm like, okay, like y'all my favorite for right now, like y'all my favorite, right? But parents don't know. How would we know, right? How would we know? Why would we know? So having an event like this where it's intimate, parents can ask questions, and not only did we have interventionists, speech and language pathologists, but we had folks from the school system, right, who could speak on a Saturday, not representing the school, but they could answer some questions. And we had folks from the Maryland State Department of Education there as well, right? So this was an event to give parents information and education they didn't even know they needed. And we did the parent panel first, intentionally, because now everyone's telling their journey, and they're saying, oh, I work with this special education advocate, not my aunt or my cousin who work in the school district, who's a special educator, they've been doing it for 30 years. Because remember, in the beginning, I went to them at first, and they couldn't help me. So this was a way for us to help parents get the education they needed, because after that parent panel, they were like, I'm coming to your session, special education advocate, I never even heard of that. Oh, a speech and language pathologist, what can they tell me? And so that was a way that we were able to get parents engaged, but also educate them. This is my favorite quote here. Wayne, he played hockey. Now, I don't watch hockey, but if you go to a hockey game, you're going to have fun. Like, they are amazing. I went to hockey games in college. I worked the concession, and I would sneak in on my days off. I just put on my uniform and go. Like, I don't even know who's winning, but it's the energy and excitement. But I always say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? As a parent, I always have when parents reach out to me and the mention of a special education attorney, I don't have the money. If they go ahead and take their child, they tour the school, they get into private school, they say, I don't have the money. I signed that contract, y'all, I ain't have the money. I keep going until I can't go no more. Because first we got to tour the school. I was so naive. I said, it's a dyslexia school. She has dyslexia. She's going to get in. Like, it's a dyslexia school, right? Her father was like, no, I think they, like, checking her out. I was like, checking her out? She's dyslexic. Like, she's going to get in. Fast forward, I become director of a dyslexia school. She might not get in, right? We're looking for a certain profile. And what families don't know is they understand that kids are dyslexic, but of course they want to maintain the rigor, right? And the school systems are doing such a horrible job that the dyslexic children are so far behind. The private school is looking, do I have enough time to work with them to get them to that next transition, which would be middle school, right? From elementary, which would be middle school. There's a lot of transition. Then you transition from middle school to high school. And if that kiddo is too far behind, then they might not be a fit. So that's when they offer you a summer program, if they have a summer tutoring program. Again, I didn't know any of this. This is off script. I'm going to share this. We applied for the private dyslexia school. We applied to 2. We went to visit 3. The first one is the one I ended up working at. But I didn't know it was a non-pub school. I didn't understand why speech was extra, OT was extra. I was like, what in the world? And her father is in the parking lot with me. This looks just like her charter school. Just scratch this off the list. It looks arts integration, project-based. It's the same school. I don't see a difference. And it's the most expensive. So I'm like, we're in the parking lot arguing. He was like, nope, this school, they want extra for OT speech. Nope, it's in a church. Why it's not in a regular building? He's like, no, right? So the other 2 schools, we tour. She picks one, we pick one. At this point, guys, I'm just a mom, and I'm advocating with decoding dyslexia. I'm going to monthly meetings. I don't know how to navigate the system. At this point, we're doing 10 hours of tutoring. I pull her out of aftercare, and she's doing 10 hours of tutoring from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So we're paying $97 a session. The first 3 months, it was $57 a session. Now, her dad works in financial services. He worked with numbers all day. The first tutor was OG, 2 days a week, $50. Okay, that was the first tutor. She went on maternity leave. We signed up for the program. Remember that $18,000 program? So now we're going to do it after school. It was $57. Her dad was like, add 3 more days. Because that was only $2 extra. He was like, you're not doing the math. Add 2 more days. That's 5 days a week, 57. Then the next term, because we were supposed to do group, but the other group didn't show up. The other person didn't show up, so she was getting one-on-one for the discounted rate. It's like, yes. Then they give you a discount if you're an alumni. Hey, we're alumni. You're getting our money. Oh, no, ma'am. You just received a deep discount. You're going to have to pay the full rate of $97 a session for 10 hours a week. Okay? And we needed to pay somebody to pick her up from school and get her to the tutoring center because we have jobs. Right? And so I'm like, okay, like this is not really working. But when we visited the schools, one school was large and one school was smaller. The smaller school was very engaged and interactive with me, keeping in touch. So I'm telling them, oh, we're starting this new tutoring. We've been in it since January. You know, she's doing this intervention 10 hours a week. So what do you think that meant for that school? They like, check, right? We're looking at her documentation. It says one thing, but we know she's getting this 10 hours a week. That was like, check mark. The larger school didn't call me as often. I didn't know to even mention it to them. So when the larger school called and said we didn't get in, I said, oh, okay, thank you. That was my daughter's choice. They said, but we have this summer tutoring program. She'd be a great candidate for. I go, no. I said, we want to give her a break. We're doing 10 hours right now. You know, we've been in it since January. We're going to wrap it up, and I just want to give her a break. And they said, oh, she's getting 10 hours at so-and-so place? Because I don't want to name them. I ain't going to name them. And then they said to me, their energy changed. They said, well, you know, you can reapply next year. And I was like, oh, okay, because I don't know. And I'm like, okay, and so we go to the smaller school. It's not a good fit. We end up transferring to the larger school. But my point is, that's a part of navigating the system to tell that private school, hey, we're doing tutoring. Because the report is going to say one thing. But now this tutoring is going to bring them up to another level, because now when we get them in our private school, we can potentially close that gap. That was just one little smidget. I didn't know how to navigate the process. Initially, I thought it's a private dyslexia school. She's dyslexic. She's going to get in. And we got in. And I went back to, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I'm going to take a shot and see if we get in. We get in, the contracts come out. You either pay in full, pay half, or pay monthly. I said, well, I'm going to sign on the dotted line and we're going to figure it out next. Right? That's what I say, because when you start this journey, there are so many roadblocks that you stop, even as educators, right? Because a lot of educators are paying out of pocket themselves. And you'll say, you know what, I can't attend that conference. I really want to go, but I can't go. See if there's a scholarship. Sometimes they don't advertise it, but there's always a scholarship. There's always a scholarship. I went to IDA's conference for the first time in 2019 on a parent scholarship. So there's always a way. So you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I don't care if it's dark. I don't care if you don't have your glasses on, because there's no lens in here. This is just aesthetic, right? This is just an accessory. I want you shooting that shot anywhere you can. Y'all didn't know that. My friends told me my hair, it looked too plain. I needed something else. So then I was like, okay. Okay, so I want you to take a shot. I don't care. If it's in an area that you feel uncomfortable in, if it's somebody who you feel won't talk to you, I want you to take a shot. Because if you don't even try, you miss out. So strategies for collaboration. Again, building trust. Now, this is with organizations, right? Because again, in this dyslexia journey, there's so many different pockets and pieces. Right? It's so many areas that you don't touch because you're specialized. And as a former educator, and this is one thing I don't like about education, you get so boxed into thinking this is what you need. Right? This is the lane I'm in. Right? I went to school to be an educator, and now I'm an educator. I'm working in education. And I have to have this bachelor's degree, and then I have to take these courses, then I get this master's degree in this, and then in order for me to move up, I need the master's, the administrator, and then I get the PhD, this doctoral degree, I need all this. And then I used to coach educators that come out of all of that and tell me, I'm gonna enroll, I wanna do consulting training, and I'm gonna enroll in this master's doctoral program in training. What? You have all you need. You have all the tools you need if you've been an educator. So that's one thing I don't like about education. It boxes you in. And you think, I need another credential, another piece of paper to go a different way, right? So when you're collaborating with others, I need you to step outside of that box and be like, hey, can we work together? How can we work together, right? Building that trust and being respectful, because when I come into space, people are like, oh, you're a parent. You better not say that to my face. Like, I've been in this. I've taken the training. I've taken training, advocacy training. I said, if I'm gonna have a nonprofit and I'm gonna pay advocates money, I need to know a good advocate, right? So I took training. I always mess up the acronym. Council of Parent Attorneys and Advocates, COPA, I think it is. I took that SEAT 1.0 training. I remember pulling over in my car on the side of the road trying to understand all the legal terms and all that information. But I needed to know if I met with an advocate if you sucked or not. Because there are some that suck. When I go to the meeting and I knew more than you and you telling me, oh, I learned something, you can't work with us. Because you should be teaching me something, right? Don't tell me I'm just a parent, because as a parent, I'm going hard. I didn't understand the 5 components of literacy. And when I was teaching, I hated to hear the word universal design. I heard it all through higher ed, all through K-12, and pedagogy. Yeah. It took me a while to even pronounce it correctly. Right? Like, I did the work, and parents do the work in this dyslexia journey because we have to. We have to. And you don't ever, we never bash educators because they don't know, right? If your teacher prep program didn't prepare you, that is not your fault, right? So there's this level of mutual respect among those in the community. And sustaining these partnerships and engagement. I recently started a new job, and I do community engagement, and the ED said, we need engagement, not encounters. I was like, oh, I like that. I'm going to use that. When I go Saturday, I'm going to put that in there somewhere. Right? So engagement and not encounters. And how do you maintain engagement? Everybody remember, I'm dating myself, the show Ugly Betty? Yeah. There was an episode where Mark was teaching her how to network. And he told her these steps. And later I wrote an article about it. But sustaining partnerships and engagement is essentially all about networking. Keeping in touch with people, letting folks know about certain events that's going on. You always have to be in the mindset of how can I help, right? How can I help? How can I help? Would this be of interest to this person? I can't go, it's not my area of expertise, but here you go. And then guess what? I got the call to say, Winifred, we're doing this Family Literacy Day. Can you get us some parents? Now, this has a lot of text, but I'm excited. Because here's an example of a successful partnership. So, the Black and Dyslexic podcast is my dyslexia awareness campaign, okay? I was working with my mentor, and she says, Winifred, you've built this brand. I was just posting on IG, hashtag Black and Dyslexic, and I was posting folks who were Black and brown celebrities. Right? We know Whoopi Goldberg, Danny Glover, Octavia Spencer, Kobe Bryant was dyslexic, Usher Raymond is dyslexic, Magic Johnson is dyslexic, Asia Wilson, WNBA player, is dyslexic, Peyton, what's his name? Gary Payton, the second or third is dyslexic, the NBA player, right? So, yeah, all these celebrities. But folks can't really identify with celebrities all the time. So then I started featuring everyday dyslexics. They start dropping out of the sky. Friends start telling me, oh, my husband's dyslexic. He's a firefighter. Oh, another person, oh, I run this tutoring program, but my husband is a SWAT supervisor. He's all vested up. He's dyslexic. So I started featuring all these dyslexics on IG. And so she says to me, wrap it up in a program, get some funding, and I don't know, create a podcast. So that's what I did. I did it with the intent that undiagnosed dyslexia, learning disabilities trigger mental health issues, and this is how I'm going to help the community. Okay? So I went back to Morgan and said, hey, I need an academic lead. Okay, I need an academic lead. She said, oh, I know all about OG. My students are being trained and they're doing free tutoring. So we partnered together. I initially submitted it saying, I want to help impact the community because undiagnosed learning disabilities trigger mental health issues. She said, we can't write it up like that. We got to write it up. We seek to spread awareness about dyslexia to Black, right? That was out of my expertise. We wrote it up like that, and that project was partially funded by Morgan Cares and the Center for Urban Health Disparities Research and Innovation, awarded by the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparities, right? So Morgan State, now we're partnering. So I'm doing all these things, and I've got all this going on. Now Morgan is the only undergraduate teacher prep program in the state of Maryland seeking IDA accreditation.
That's great.
That was through a partnership and collaboration. So fast forward, Bear Pals, Peer Allies for Learning and Support. She gave me the 10-minute, but I got to get this out. So you know how I went and I was director of admissions of a special education school? My daughter's in 9th grade. What's next?
College.
So I started interviewing in colleges in the disability support centers because I need to understand the difference between services, coordinated services, and structured services. Right? And so I started doing that work, and I come back to Morgan. She said, hey, there's an opportunity for another grant. You can expand upon the Black and Dyslexic podcast. I said, I don't want to do that. The podcast is going. We're interviewing folks. That's good. I want to do something else. So what I wanted to do was go around to all of the HBCUs, because what I noticed is that their disability support centers were lacking. They had a staff of 2 or 3. When I went to the predominantly white institution that I graduated from with my graduate degree, they had about 7 people, right? So we created, we submitted it. The Peer Network Support Program aims to create a supportive community for college students with learning disabilities. We're going to have upperclassmen with LD, mentor lowerclassmen with LD, but then we're going to push in with support, right? I'm going to have somebody come in and talk about executive function coaching. I'm going to have somebody talk about advocacy, because that's what the students lack in public schools is self-advocacy, right? And so now this has been funded. It says the proposal you submitted to ascends health-related community-based participatory research. So that's that favorite thing, CBPR. That's what I've been working a lot with. Small grants competition, Bear Pals, Peer Allies for Learning and Support has been approved by NIH. And that's through partnerships and collaborations and staying engaged, right? How can I help her? How can she help me? Now this, we're going to wrap it up with this. So Decoding Dyslexia Maryland, that started it. That led me to be on the EAC committee, which is the Education Advocacy Committee. MSDE, Maryland State Department of Education, I serve on the Special Education Work Group Committee. And because I am Black, I need to show up, I need to be there. These are spaces we are not represented in. A lot of times I don't understand what the hell is going on. But I've got allies and friends, and I'll take notes, and after that call, I'll be like, what did they mean by that? Why did he say that? What did this senator mean by that? Oh, okay, because guess what? I'm getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? Dyslexia Advocation, that's when I started the nonprofit, because I said I want to help Black and brown families access this support. The Jimmacy School, I'm going to name the school, that's where my daughter attends right now. I got a program, I got a sponsorship to air. Anybody ever seen Normal Isn't Real? It's a documentary, and I was going to show it as a drive-in during the pandemic. Well, I didn't have the capacity to make that happen, so what did I do? I gifted it to the school because they could make it happen, because I'm building connections outside of my daughter just attending that school. And then we have Morgan State. I'm never letting them go. Dr. Gibson is with me for life, right? The next thing we want to do is do a summer tutoring program. And Morgan Cares, that's that arm in there that connects academic research to CBO's community-based organizations. That's that connection there. And then through there, we've got MILE, the Maryland Initiative for Literacy and Equity. I put city schools in there, you guys, because Morgan State, because I work for city schools, remember that? So the people at city schools know me, so I can't always go in the door, right? But Morgan State can, because they did a pilot where they were tutoring teachers, I'm sorry, not tutoring teachers, but doing professional development for teachers that didn't get or did get the letters training, right? So there was a partnership there. They had a cohort of schools, and she worked with them, so then that was my inside to the schools. So this is how I built a dynamic alliance in this dyslexia journey, all because I started because my daughter was a struggling reader. And so get involved. The Institute for Black Literacy, Dyslexia Alliance for Black Children, they do a wonderful, wonderful job of parent videos and support for parents. Decoding Dyslexia Virginia is out here. I saw them. The table is there. There are chapters across state lines and even international. Every chapter is different. Our chapter at the time was focusing on legislation so all children in kindergarten could get screened for reading failure. In Maryland, we have a Family Support Services Directory. And then here, I know you guys have dyslexia advisors in Virginia, and you can contact the regional coordinators to get help, okay? Unlocking Potential Together is building a community of support and partnerships between schools, families, and organizations. I want you to get out of your comfort zone and connect with an organization. There are different sessions here today. There are tables here today with information you don't know about. I need every single one of you to learn about an organization that is here today because we are coming together for a common goal, right? Everybody here. If it's somebody, oh, I don't need that. Educators do that a lot because I used to do that. I don't need that. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. Thank you so much.